so we're going into phase 4.
Phase 4?
Top track.
Okay.
We're going to install this, put some fasteners in, shim it, nice and level, and on the line. Let's do it.
Let's get to it.
This is where the 2 impact setup is what I prefer.
Okay.
So I'm gonna have 1 impact setup with a drill bit, 3/16 drill bit,
Yep.
something for that size. And then I'll have another one with a 6-inch extension as well, with my socket in there, the appropriate socket for my
Ledger locks.
fasteners. All right.
So when we were pre-drilling the lower, we were able to just set it in place. For the upper, are you holding one side while you pre-drill and your helper is holding the other side?
Yeah, so the best way to do this, especially on the longer lengths
Yep.
with 2 people, is this end will actually sit, once it notches into that side jam,
Yep.
it will actually sit and hold in the appropriate place
Okay.
up here. So again, if there's pressure towards this side jam from
Yep.
this person holding it,
Yep.
you can essentially hold the weight of the track and the side jam
We'll hold the other side. Okay.
So we'll kind of showcase that. As it's sitting there, I am going to stand up with my head above that top track
Yep.
so that I can still see that snapped line.
Yep.
And I'm going to run this drill bit through the track, pre-drill the holes where I can see. And normally I would pre-drill 1 on this end,
Yep.
get that in place, run the fastener up until it's just kind of holding the track.
Okay.
And then I'll come down your end and I'll pre-drill 1, hang that, and then the weight of the track is supported and we can pre-drill it out.
Okay, perfect.
All right.
Yep. So the exit hole is going to be on the same side that we did first, the daily door side or the pivot side.
Correct.
Okay.
And it's always going to be on the exterior side.
Okay, makes sense.
So we're going to go up, and then you can push it in towards me. And as you can see, as long as you keep pressure towards me, you're going to be able to keep that track from moving around, and I don't need to hold it.
Okay.
It's resting on there. So you're really going to want to make sure that your holes are lined up with the center line.
Okay.
And so that end cap, the notch on the backside, centers it inside that side jam. Can't move side to side. I know that I'm in a very good spot. All right, so with that track in place, now I can look up, find that hole, wearing my eyewear so that no dust, dirt, debris falls into my eyes, and I can pre-drill that first hole. All right, now it's ready for a fastener. Take my impact. So 1 fastener in that end. I'm coming down here. I'm gonna pick the last hole. I'll help you out here. You can let go of it a little bit.
Okay.
I'm gonna drop it down a little bit so I can see that red line. You good?
Yep.
All right, so pre-drilled that hole. Now I'll run this fastener up. There we go.
Okay, so especially on a wider system with a heavier top track, you said they could go up to 20 feet. You want to make sure you're prepped for that portion so you're not trying to hold it while you go find other pieces.
Correct.
Okay. So next step would be pre-drilling and putting fasteners into the other pre-drilled holes into the top track?
Correct. All your fastener points, that they've been pre-drilled.
Yep.
So these are pre-drilled at specific spots at the intersection of the panels to allow us to do some gap adjustment once the panels are in.
Perfect.
Cool?
Yep.
So your fastener locations are important. So on every system where the doors are going to hang, you're going to have 2 fastener points very close to the end. Then you're going to have 1 at the end of the hinge piece. And then you're going to have another 1 here at that opening hole. And then the spacing on them depend on the width of the panels so that they land in the center.
Makes sense. Now, right off the rip, I notice that this over here, the top of the section that we just put in, is not flush with the top of the side jam. And so that's what you're saying, that is where we kind of work from the bottom up.
Correct. So
Okay.
what we're going to do now, that the fasteners are in, we're going to start here
Yep.
and shim in between here to get that top of the top track flush with the top of here, and then we can move that way. There's 2 ways to do that. If we trust that our bottom track is perfectly level,
Yep.
we could parallel this and know that that top track is level.
Okay.
We can also shoot a new laser
Yep.
and measure off that. And so we'll probably do both, just
Okay.
to kind of show both options. Okay, when I'm shimming, I like to be on a ladder because I like to be at about head height. So
Yep.
I can see what's going on up here. I can see there's some wood chips up in here. And so again, I want to make sure that my shim is resting with no debris in between.
Sure.
My beam is sloping a little bit.
Okay.
As I've shimmed the bottom surface, so I figured that the top surface would also be leaning because it's built square off a unlevel floor.
Okay.
And so we're probably going to get a bigger gap here, and then it'll taper to that
Smaller
end,
gap, okay.
as we level it out. So I can start by kind of getting my shim placement up on the top of this side shim because I know that that's where I'm aiming for.
Okay.
So I'm gonna build a shim stack that should be appropriate. Right away as I tighten up, I can see that it's looking pretty level.
Uh-huh.
I think we should set our laser up and we'll set it at a high point.
So important to note, if you're doing it on this surface, it's never going to be flat because of the kind of the weather sealing that you have there.
So you really want to start at this end because you know that you could basically measure off the top of this side jam and really that's your measurement. So you're right at 21. Yeah. So we'll follow that 21 number all the way across. And at the same time, we'll also check for parallel on the top track to bottom track.
Okay.
So it looks like we need to go up, which is great. Sometimes if this section of track is sitting too low,
Yep.
you're kind of bending the track as you go.
Okay.
Like you know, if you're working across. So sometimes I like to come over here and set
Get it close.
Get it pretty close.
Okay.
I like to be a little bit low so I can still fit shims in along the way, but we can kind of get this one a little bit closer. Basically run this fastener up until we're pretty close. We've got this first one set. That one's close. It's a little bit low. Now we're just gonna work across.
Okay. That's almost dead on.
Okay. So I know that
It can come up a skosh.
even if this top channel was to be up and down 1/4 of an inch, 3/8 of an inch, we could actually adjust this lower section of the top track to be running perfectly level. So we want to get this as exact as possible, but this is not the part that's actually supporting the wheels. This is.
Okay.
And we have internal adjustment to get that perfect.
Perfect.
Very micro type of adjustment.
Yep. '21s across the board. Blackjack.
It's really important that we get our track to side jam joints really tight. And so down here, we're gonna make sure that this side jam is nice and tight in this seam here. And this top track joint is nice and tight. So this is actually a square cut on the top of this channel here. We want that as tight as possible to that surface. And then this secondary part of this track, it actually has a little bit of side to side movement in it. So you just wanna make sure it's nice and pushed over tight to that side jam. Now, our secondary top track, we can adjust that to get perfect height.
This piece.
Correct.
Okay.
And the way we do that is at each fastener point,
Yep.
right beside it, there's an adjuster bolt that goes into a block. And so you can see with a M5 T-bar,
Yep.
I can basically turn that clockwise to adjust this track up or counterclockwise to adjust it down. And so
Okay.
just by putting this up inside the track and turning, I can adjust
Oh, I see it, yeah.
that track up or I can adjust it down.
Okay.
So what we want to do is make sure that the gap between the bottom track and the upper track is perfect spacing so that our panels can slide in now. Now we want to adjust these tracks so that they're parallel and
Yep.
the spacing between them is appropriate for the panels to operate correctly.
Okay.
So we measured the height of the panel from metal to metal, top to bottom,
Yep.
76 and 5/8. And we always want to set this gap to 3/8 over that panel height.
Okay.
So it would put us right at 77.
All right.
So now we can come along this track, starting from this end, and we will adjust the top track to make that gap absolutely perfect.
So where are we measuring from and where are we measuring to?
So we're going to measure from this flat surface on the exterior side of the lower track.
Okay.
And we are going to measure to the underside of this bevel.
Flat surface on the exterior side, underside of bevel. So it looks like it could come down
Okay,
just a little bit.
great. In these two adjusters that are in the hinge piece,
Yep.
they're a flathead bolt instead of the
Socket.
bolt. So you're gonna see a little bit different. It's still a T5, but it's a little bit different looking adjuster.
Okay.
And so usually what I like to do is because there's two adjusters in here, you could actually drop the one and not drop the other, and it's not gonna make any difference. So you wanna make sure you're dropping both adjusters. Your panel weight is gonna drop these down.
For sure.
All right, so both of those are set pretty good. Now we're gonna come over to this adjuster point. Same thing,
Maybe down just a little bit. Okay,
good?
that looks good to me.
All right,
Now again, going back to measuring with the tape this way, I'm not looking straight at it from on a ladder. So we could get a little bit more precise if I was doing that.
so the fact that you're looking at it from the same angle
Yep.
should mean that we're going to get a very similar number all the way across. Down more?
I think that's fine.
Okay, so.
Maybe even up some.
Okay. Up a bit?
Yep. Right there, it's good.
Okay.
Okay, exterior side on the lower. Okay, this one can come down just a bit. Right there.
Okay. Once we put a panel in, we're
Yep.
gonna know whether that adjustment is right. And so if the wheels slide in on this end, they should, because they're parallel, it should travel all the way.
Nice and smooth.
If we're trying to put that panel in and the wheels don't fit, we may have to readjust this and then carry that adjustment.
Sounds good.
Okay.
So is that the end of phase 4?
That is the end of phase 4. Tracks, side jam is set. This system is ready for panels.
Time to look at some glass.
Now we have 3 sides of our frame put in.
Yep.
We know it's straight, it's square, it's level, it's plumb. We are ready to put panels in. So as of now, the frame that is necessary to get panels in is done.
Okay.
Phase 4 is done. We're on to phase 5.
Phase 5.